Recording has started. As I was mentioning earlier, we would like to walk you through today through the questionnaire, the list determination page. Many of you don't have it enabled, or not make use of it, and that will lead us into other type of lease contracts that Nakisa can support, a subject that we haven't touched so often, so we thought it would be a good opportunity to do so. And we are also going to give you some reminders into the type of resources we have throughout our website that, by the way, is continually updated and refreshed. We do have um, a variety of resources, training materials, documentation, video recordings, not just from office hours, but from what we used to have before the Nakisa University. Nakisa University has fully migrated on a YouTube platform. And just a quick reminder, refresher that those materials are there for you to consult, and we hope you do so. We're coming into the list determination page, and as I was saying earlier, probably one portion that it's less used, but it's there. A reminder that the lease accounting does include a considerable portion of judgment, and Nakisa has embedded this framework to help out with this process of deciding what type of contract you are actually entering in Nakisa. Of course, by the time you enter in Nakisa, you have an idea of what's the type of contract, but we do have this framework, and we would like to remind you today about it and how you can make use of it, and then walk you through other type of contracts that Nakisa can support. And with that, I'm passing the mic to you, Pratibha.
Thank you, Catalina. So let's go ahead and start with the lease determination page. So, um, yeah, this page is found in the contract level, and we have the list of questions to help determine the type of the lease. So, based on the answers given, the application will suggest whether the lease is a lease contract fixed, short term, low value, non lease service contract, or non lease contract. So here we have the first question. Does the lease contain an identified asset? So if it is a no, and if there is no identified asset, then we need to determine if it is a service contract. So if it is not a service contract, then it is a non-lease, and otherwise it is a service contract. So now, if there is an identified asset, then again we have to ascertain if it is a service contract. If it is not a service contract, then we have few more questions to answer to determine the type of the lease. So the next question is, does the customer have the right to substantially all economic benefit from the use of the asset? So, if the customer does not have the right to receive economic benefit from the use of that particular asset, that means it is not a lease. And if the customer do have the right to right, then we need to ascertain who has the right to direct how and for what purpose the asset is used throughout the lease. So here we have three options. If it is a supplier, then again it is not a lease. And if it is a customer, then we need to know if we know it is a lease, but then we have to ascertain if it is a fixed lease, short term, or low value of lease. So we have further questions to answer. So here, if is the lease less than 12 months with no purchase option or no purchase option likely to exercise? And if the answer to this is yes, that means it is a lease short term. If no, we have other question. Is the lease for a low value asset? If it is a yes, that means it is a lease low value. And if it is a no, that means it is a lease fixed contract. Do anyone have any question until here? No? So,
No, no. I'm keeping
oh,
an eye on the
okay,
chat
great.
and I'll let you know. You
Yeah.
can continue.
So we completed the customer part. Now we have the neither option. And if we select neither, then again we have another set of questions to answer to determine if the lease is if it is an actual lease or a non-lease. So let's go to the neither part. And we have this question. Does the customer have the right to operate the asset throughout the period of use without the supplier having the right to change those operating instructions? And another question is, did the customer design the asset in such a way that predetermines how and for what use the asset will be used throughout the period of use? That is, if it is a specialized asset made just for the customer. If the answer for both is no, then that means the supplier still has the right on how the asset should be utilized, and thus it is not a lease. And if it is yes for either of these questions, that means the customer has the right, and hence we go ahead to determine whether it's a short term lease or a low value lease or a fixed lease. Now let's see how each of these type impact our journal entries and schedule. So first here we have a non-lease contract. So if we select a select non-lease in the determination, we will be able to enter the terms in the lease component level, but then the activation group is not created, and the lease component phase will be shown as closed. No schedules or postings are created. And then we have the non-lease service contract. And here we will not be able to enter the contract rate at the contract level in accounting page. And since it is a service contract, we cannot select any asset details at lease component level in definition page. And for the terms and condition, we can input the non-lease amount and not the lease amount. And also we need to input the distribution detail of the non-lease amount. In the activation group level, we don't have to select the classification since it is a service contract, and then we can activate the contract. Now here we can see the schedule. There is no standard lease we have the schedule for standard term non-lease payment, and these will be expense. So under the under the unit level, we don't have any inception entry, or the document icon is missing because there is no capitalization. And for the postings, we have the payment and accrual of the expenses. And we obviously don't have the depreciation since we don't have an asset. And this is the accrual entry. So we are crediting the um, payable and debiting expense, and we are making the payment over here. Now we have the short-term and low-value asset. So once we select that, similar to what we had in the service contract, we cannot add a contract rate. We cannot add a lease. We cannot add any lease details in the lease component definition page. And But in the schedule, we will see the standard lease payment, but the asset is not generated, and hence for the postings we have the payment and accrual posting, and we don't have the depreciation posting. And these will be the entries. So we are debiting the operating lease expenses, and then this is the payment entry. Now, the lease type determined via this question is just a suggestion. We can always override it in the definition page. Now, let's look at this in the system. So, I have a master agreement over here, and I can create a contract and select the year 2023, and I'm selecting D111 as a company, and I'm naming it. Now, here this is our lease determination page. So here, this is the first question. So the first question, does the lease contain an identified asset? If it is a no, that means we have another question to ascertain if it is a service contract or if it is not a lease. So if it is if we select service contract as yes, then it will show the suggested lease type is non-lease service contract. And if we had selected no, it would show as non-lease contract. Now, going back to the first question, does the lease contain an identified asset? If the answer was yes, we still have to ascertain if it is a service contract. So if it is a service contract, it will hide all the other question, and it will suggest non-lease service contract as a lease type. And if we select no, we have further question to determine what type of lease it is, like if it is non-lease, short-term, low value, or a fixed contract. So the next question is, does the customer have the right to obtain substantially all economic benefit from the use of the asset? So if the customer does not have the right, that means it is not a lease. And if the customer has the right, we still have to answer a few other questions. Who has the right to direct how and for what purpose the asset is used throughout the lease term? If it is uh, if it is supplier, then again it is not a lease. And if it is a customer, then we need to determine whether it's a short term, low value, or fixed asset, fixed lease. So if the lease term less than 12 months with no purchase option or no purchase option that is likely to be exercised, if it is yes, that means it is a short-term asset, short-term contract. And if it is a no, then we have another question that we need to answer. Is the lease for a low value asset? The low value threshold is based on the company. So if the asset is valued less than that particular threshold, you can say yes, and it will show low value lease. And the next, going back to our old question, who has the right to direct how and for what purpose the asset is used throughout the lease term? If I select neither, then we have few other questions. So if neither, does the customer have the right to operate the asset throughout the period of use without the supplier having the right to change those operating instructions? So if the supplier have the right to change the operating instruction, then it is Yeah. Then we have few other questions. Did the customer design the asset in such a way that predetermines how and for what use the asset will be used throughout the period of use? If, for example, customer, if the asset is a specialized asset, specially designed for this particular customer, if you say yes, that means again it is a lease. We just have to determine whether it's a short term, low value, or fixed lease. If I select no, again it's not a lease. That means the supplier has some right to the asset, and hence it's not a lease. So uh, I can say yes, and then we just have to select if it is a short term. If I select no, uh, is it a low value? And if I select no, we will get the lease contract fixed. Now let's go ahead to see what lease contract fixed actually mean. So in the definition page, we can always change the lease type over here. And this will override what was suggested in the lease determination page. And then we can just move on with our contract. So my currency is Canadian dollar, and I can select the partner over here, and I can select the users. And now I can go to the accounting page. We have the option of having the contract rate. So I'm selecting 2%. And if we have any indexation, we can select it over here. And I'm selecting the compounding frequency as monthly. And I can select the cost center. And we can go ahead to create a lease component. You can name it. And under lease component definition page, we have the option of selecting the asset detail. So I'm selecting vehicle as the asset class. I'm selecting the unit of measurement is each. And then I can go to the terms and conditions. I can add a new term, base rent. And I have the option of uh, typing in the lease amount. Let's say my lease amount per month is $1,000 and I don't have a non-lease amount. And my amount frequency is one time monthly and it starts from 1st January 2023 to December 2023. Then I have the same terms and conditions start date and end date. And I can go to the contract level and send it to approval. Approve. And in the activation group level, we have all the details that are inherited from master lease agreement, contract, lease component. I can go to the classification. Now I can send it to assessment, approve them, and then I can select the classification for the US GAAP to see whether it's a finance lease or operating lease. Let's say mine is operating, and I can confirm the classification. I can set the reception date. And activate the contract. So here we have an activation group. And if you go to the unit level, we can see the document. And we have the asset capitalization and liability entries. Those are the inception entries. And then if you go to the schedule, all column, we have the standard lease payment and we have the liability details as well as the asset details. An asset is created over here. Now, let's say for other type of the contract, I'm creating another contract. Selecting the year and company. And here, does this lease contain an identified asset? I'm selecting no. And is this a service contract? If I select no, I'll have the non-lease contract type. And let's go ahead to create a non-lease account contract. So the contract currency, I'm selecting CAD. And I can select partner. And the users. And then in the accounting, I can also select the contract rate, compounding frequency, and the cost center. And then I can go ahead and create a lease component. And here we can also select the asset classes and the unit of measurement. And I can also enter the term. We have the base rent, 1,000, one time, and payment frequency is monthly. And I can select the payment dates, December 2023. And I have the same TNC start date and end date. So we have the terms ready. The only difference, the difference over here is once we send the contract to approval, the contract phase shows as closed. We cannot have an activation group. No schedules are created, nor there are any posting. Now let's move on to the next type. So again, I'm creating another contract, selecting the year, the company, and the contract name. Let's say if it is a service contract, let's say I don't have an identified asset and it is a service contract. It will show non-lease service contract. Here, I can go to the definition page. I can select the currency and then I can select the partners and the users. And then in the accounting page, we cannot select the contract rate. It's grayed out. You can just select the compounding frequency over here and the cost center. And I can go ahead and create a lease component. So since it is a service contract, we don't have an asset class. So we cannot select the asset details over here. We can go to the terms and condition. We can add a new term, standard term, and base rent. The lease amount is grayed out. We cannot select a lease amount. I have a non-lease amount. So I can say, let's say my amount is 1,000 per month and my amount frequency is one time and it's paid monthly for 12 months starting from January 2023 until December 2023. I have the same start date and end date. And here, since we have a non-lease amount, we need to determine to also give the detail or distribution details of those non-lease amount. So let's say I'm selecting percentage and I'm giving 50% for maintenance and another 50% for parking. And I can submit it. Now I can go to the contract level and approve them. Here, a activation group is created. I can go to the activation group and I can send it to assessment, approve them. And for classification, we can see if since it is a service contract, the confirmed classification will automatically be filled as service contract. So I don't have to change anything over here. I can confirm the classification and I can set the reception date. And activate it. Again, since it is a service contract, the asset is not created, so we don't have an asset number. We don't have the capitalization document. And if you go to the schedule, all column, we can see the standard term lease payment is empty. And if you scroll to your right, you can see the standard term non-lease payment schedule. And we don't have a liability, nor we have an asset. And if you go to the posting, we have the payment posting and accrual. So we have the 50% expense allocated to maintenance and payment, and we have the payable entries over here. And this will be the payment entry. Now let's again go to the master lease agreement and create a contract. I'm selecting the year and I'm selecting the company and let's look at short-term lease. So here we have the determination page and the first question is, does the lease contain an identified asset? Yes. And it is not a service contract. and the customer has the right to obtain substantially all the economic benefit from the use of the asset, and customer has the right to direct how and for what purpose the asset is used throughout the lease term. And then we have the question to ascertain if it is short term and low value. So let's say it is less than 12 months. Yes. So we have lease short term. And let's go ahead and create the contract. So I'm selecting the currency as Canadian dollar. I can go to the partners and add a partner. And I can select the user, notification details, and I can go to accounting. So similar to what we had for service contract, we cannot select a contract rate, and we can select the compounding frequency and the cost center. And then I can go ahead and create a lease component. So this is for short term. I can submit it. Again, we cannot select asset class, any details of the asset. Then I can go to the terms and conditions and I can add a new term. Let's say base rent of 1,000. Here I have the option to add the lease amount and I can select the amount frequency, payment frequency, and the first payment date is 1st January 2023 until December 2023. And I have the same payment, uh, same PNC start date and end date. And I can submit it. Then I can go to the contract level and I can send it to approval. And I can go to the activation group level. We have all the details from the MLA as well as contract and lease component. Can send it to assessment and I can approve them. And for classification, again, we don't have to select anything since it's a short-term lease. I can confirm the classification. I can set the reception date. And activate the contract. So if you go to the unit list, again, since it's a short-term contract, we don't have any asset created. And if you go to the schedule, all column, we have the standard lease payment for $1,000 monthly for 12 months. And we don't have a liability created nor an asset. Now let's go to the posting. Again, we have the payment and accrual posting. We don't have a depreciation posting since we don't have an asset generated. Now, similarly, we can again go back to our master lease agreement, can create another contract and select the year, company, and contract name. And another thing I wanted to show you is whatever is suggested over here. Let's say I'm selecting no. It says non-lease. We can always override it from the definition page. Can select is low value, and it will override what was suggested over here. And I can now select the contract currency. I'm selecting Canadian dollar. And then I can select the partner. And I can select the users. And in the accounting page, similar to what we had for the service contract and short-term leases, we cannot select a contract rate. Just have to select the compounding frequency and cost center. And then I can go ahead and create a lease component. It's low value. Again, similarly, we cannot select any asset detail. We can go to the terms and condition and create a base rent term for $1,000. We cannot select any non-lease amount. I can say amount frequency is one time, monthly, and payment frequency. The first payment date is January 2023 until December 2023, and I have the same start date and end date. I can go ahead and approve the contract, and an activation group is generated. I can send this to assessment, approve them, and under classification, we already have the classification set. It's low value, so we don't have to change anything. I can confirm the classification, and I can set the reception date. And activate it. So if you go to the unit list, we don't have an asset generated, so we don't have a asset number nor the inception entry. And if you go to the schedule column, we have the standard term lease payment, but again, there is no liability created nor any asset. Similarly, in the posting, we have the payment and accrual posting. We don't have the depreciation posting. So that's it for the lease determination. Do anyone have any question? Okay.
While you're thinking of question, but also comments as well, we are really interested to see if you are using these additional types that Nakisa supports, and how you integrate them in your business process, and also just in the spirit of adding more color to the explanation, the determination is an important factor. So the contract type, I'm sorry, is an important factor in the accounting determination. So the way we have the master data built up is very much depending on this type of choice, and whether the choice ultimately remains with the user, it will have implication into how the accounting entries will look like, because you can have different GL accounts a different setup in there. And as well, the way you will see these particular contracts in reporting can differ, especially as we do not have an asset creation, we don't have an initial recognition for either liability or asset. Some of these contracts are not covered by the disclosure reports. However, you can use other reports available in Nakisa to visualize the details that are presented here. And once again, we do welcome all your comments, questions, and you can reach out to us regarding the subjects that you would like to see in our next sessions.
Hello.
Hi, Alexandra.
Hey, can you please post the payment and accrual entry? I would like to see the entry that Excellent generates.
Mhm.
So here we have the payment entry. So it goes to the vendor
And the
we are
decrease in
calculating,
liability.
yeah,
Yeah.
decrease in liability. And for the accrual, we have the operating lease expense debit, and we are crediting the deferred asset and short-term the liability.
Okay, thank you.
So, Alexandra, to your question, because the principle here is of the straight line recognition, that's why we have that additional credit in there, that we have a part that it's deferred and a part that it's actually recognized in the month, because your expense is slightly higher than the payment that you make. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Do anyone have any other question?
So we can move to the resources part, Pratibha, and we'll see if we have additional questions.
Okay.